Welcome to the 1,000 Nights and 1 Night. Now, when it was the 176th night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when the prince Kamar al-Zaman had prayed, conjoining them in one, the prayers of sundown and nightfall, he sat down on the well and began reciting the Quran. And he repeated the cow, the house of Imran, and the YS, the compassionate, blessed be the king, unity and the two talisman. And he ended with blessing and supplication, and with saying, I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the stoned. Then he lay down upon his couch, which was covered with a mattress of satin from al-Zaman and town, and the same on both sides, and stuffed with the raw silk of the Iraq. And under his head was a pillow filled with ostrich down. And when ready for sleep, he doffed his outer clothes and drew off his bag trousers, and lay down in a shirt of delicate stuff, smooth as wax. And he donned a headkerchief of azure marza cloth. And at such time, and on this guise, Kamar al-Zaman was like the full-orbed moon when it riseth on its 14th night. Then, drawing over his head a coverlet of silk, he fell asleep with the lanthorn burning at his feet, and the wax candle over his head. And he ceased not sleeping through a third of the night, not knowing what lurked for him in the womb of the future, and what omniscience had decreed for him. Now, as fate and fortune would have it, both tower and saloon were old, and had been many years deserted, and there was therein a Roman well inhabited by a Jinnah, and of the seed of Iblis, the accursed, by name Maymunah, daughter of al-Zaman, a renowned king of the Jann. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. Now, when it was the 177th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the name of the Jinnah in question was Maymunah, daughter of al-Zaman, a renowned king of the Jann. And as Kamar al-Zaman continued sleeping till the first third of the night, Maymunah came up out of the Roman well, and made for the firmament, thinking to listen by stealth to the converse of the angels. But when she reached the mouth of the well, she saw a light shining in the tower, contrary to custom, and having dwelt there many years without seeing the like, she said to herself, Never have I witnessed aught like this, and marveling much at the matter, determined that there must be some cause therefor. So she made for the light, and found the eunuch sleeping within the door. And inside she saw a couch spread, whereon was a human form, with the wax candle burning at his head, and the lanthorn at his feet. And she wondered to see the light, and stole towards it, little by little. Then she folded her wings, and stood by the bed, and drawing back the coverlid, discovered Kamar al-Zaman's face. She was motionless for a full hour in admiration and wonderment, for the luster of his visage outshone that of the candle. His face beamed like a pearl with light. His eyelids were languorous like those of the gazelle. The pupils of his eyes were intensely black and brilliant. His cheeks were rosy red. His eyebrows were arched like bows, and his breath exhaled a scent of musk, even as saith of him of the poet, I kissed him. Darker grew those pupils which seduce my soul, and cheeks flushed rosier hue. O heart, if slanders dare to deem there be his likes and charms, say, bring him hither, you. Now, when Maymunah saw him, she pronounced the formula of praise and said, Blessed be Allah, the best of creators, for she was of the true believing jinn. And she stood a while gazing on his face, exclaiming and envying the youth his beauty and loveliness. And she said in herself, By Allah, I will do no hurt to him, nor any harm. Nay, from all of evil will I ransom him, for his fair face deserveth not but that folk should gaze upon it, and for it praise the Lord. Yet how could his family find it in their hearts to leave him in such a deserted place where if one of our Marids came upon him at this hour, he would assuredly slay him. Then the Ifritah Maymunah bent over him and kissed him between the eyes, and presently drew back the sheet over his face, which she covered up. And after this she spread her wings, and soaring into the air, flew upwards. And after rising high from the circle of the saloon, she ceased not winging her way through the air, and ascending skywards, till she drew near the heaven of this world, the lowest of the heavens. And behold, she heard the noisy flapping of wings cleaving the welkin, and directing herself by the sound, she found when she drew near it that the noise came from an Ifrit called Danish. So she swooped down on him like a sparrowhawk, and when he was aware of her and knew her to be Maymunah, the daughter of the king of the Jinn, he feared her, and his side muscles quivered, and he implored her forbearance, saying, I conjure thee, by the most great and august name, and by the most noble talisman graven upon the seal ring of Solomon, entreat me kindly, and harm me not. When she heard these words, her heart inclined to him, and she said, Verily, thou conjurest me, O accursed, with a mighty conjuration. Nevertheless, I will not let thee go till thou tell me whence thou comest at this hour. He replied, O princess, know that I came from the uttermost end of China land, and from among the islands, and I will tell thee of wonderful things I have seen this night. If thou find my words true, let me wend my way, and write me a patent under thy name, and with thy signed manual that I am thy freed man. So none of the jinn hosts, whether of the upper who fly, or of the lower who walk the earth, or those who dive beneath the waters, do me let or hindrance. Rejoined Maymunah, and what is it that thou hast seen this night, O liar, O accursed? Tell me without leasing, and think not to escape from my hand with falses, for I swear to thee, by the letters graven upon the bezel of the seal ring of Solomon, David's son, on both of whom be peace, except thy speech be true, I will pluck out thy feathers with mine own hand, and strip off thy skin, and break thy bones. Quoth the Ifrit, Danish, son of Shamhurish, the flyer, I accept, O my lady, these conditions. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 177th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Danish spoke thus of Maymunah. I accept, O my lady, these conditions. Then he resumed, O my mistress, that I come to-night from the island of the inland sea in the parts of China, which are the realms of King Gair, lord of the islands and the seas and the 7 palaces. There I saw a daughter of his, than whom Allah hath made none fair in her time. I cannot picture her to thee, for my tongue would fail to describe her with her due of praise. But I will name to thee a somewhat of her charms by way of reproach. Now, her hair is like the nights of disunion and separation, and her face like the days of union and delectation. And right well hath the poet said when picturing her, She dispread the locks from her head one night, showing 4-fold nights into one night run. And she turned her visage towards the moon, and 2 moons showed at moment one. She hath a nose like the edge of the burnished blade, and cheeks like purple wine, or an enemy's blood red. Her lips as coral and cornelian shine, and the water of her mouth is sweeter than old wine. Its taste would quench hell's fiery pain. Her tongue is moved by wit of high degree and ready repartee. Her breast is a seduction to all that see it. Glory be to him who fashioned it and finished it. And joined thereto are 2 upper arms, smooth and round, even as saith of her the poet al-Walhan. She hath wrists which, did her bangle not contain, would run from out her sleeves in silvern rain. She hath breasts like two globes of ivory from whose brightness the moons borrow light, and a stomach with little waves, as it were, a figured cloth of the finest Egyptian linen made by the Copts, with creases like folded scrolls, ended in a waist slender, past all imagination, based upon back parts, like a hillcock of blown sand that forced her to sit when she would lief stand, and awaken her when she fain would sleep, even as saith of her described her the poets. She hath those hips, conjoined by thread of waist, hips that o'er me and her to tyrannace. My thoughts thy days, whene'er I think of them, and weigh her down whene'er she would uprise. And those back parts are unborn by thighs smooth and round, and a calf like a column of pearl. And all this reposes upon 2 feet, narrow, slender, and pointed like spear blades, the handiwork of the protector of and requiter. I wonder how of their littleness they can sustain what is above them. But I cut short my praises of her charms, fearing lest I be tedious. And Scheherazade perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. Now, when it was the 179th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the Ifrit Danish bin Shamhersh said to the Ifritah Maymunah, of a truth, I can cut short my praises, fearing lest I be tedious. Now when Maymunah heard the description of that princess, and her beauty and loveliness, she stood still in astonishment. Whereupon Danish resumed, The father of this fair maiden is a mighty king, a fierce knight, immersed night and day in fray and fight, for whom death hath no fright, and the escape of his foe no dread, for that he is a tyrant masterful, and a conqueror irresistible, lord of troops and armies and continents and islands and cities and villages, and his name is King Gayer, lord of the islands and of the seas and of the 7 palaces. Now he loveth his daughter, the young maiden whom I have described to thee, with dearest love, and for affection of her he hath heaped together the treasures of all the kings, and built her therein 7 palaces, each of a different fashion, the first of crystal, the second of marble, the third of china steel, the 4th of precious stones and gems of price, the 5th of porcelain and many-hued onyxes and ring bezels, and the 6th of silver, and the 7th of gold. And he hath filled the 7 palaces with all sorts of sumptuous furniture, rich silken carpets, and hangings, and vessels of gold and silver, and all manner of gear that kings require, and hath bidden his daughter to abide in each by turns for a certain season of the year. And her name? Her name is Princess Budur. Now, when her beauty became known, and her name and fame were bruited abroad in the neighboring countries, all kings sent to her father to demand her of him in marriage, and he consulted her in the matter. But she disliked the very word wedlock with a manner of abhorrence, and said, O my father, I have no mind to marry, no, not at all, for I am a sovereign lady of the queen, suzerain, ruling over men, and I have no desire for a man who shall rule over me. And the more suits she refused, the more her suitors' eagerness increased. And all the royalties of the inner islands of China sent presents and rarities to her father with letters asking her in marriage. So he pressed her again, and again with advice on the matter of espousals. But she ever opposed to him refusals, till at last she turned upon him angrily and cried, O my father, if thou name matrimony to me once more, I will go into my chamber and take a sword, and fixing its hilt in the ground, will set its point to my waist. Then will I press upon it till it come forth from my back, and so slay myself. Now, when the king heard these her words, the light became darkness in his sight, and his heart burned for her as with a flame of fire, because he feared lest she should kill herself. And he was filled with perplexity concerning her affair, and the king's her suitors. So he said to her, If thou be determined not to marry, and there be no help for it, abstain from going and coming in and out. Then he placed her in a house, and he shut her up in a chamber, appointing 10 old women as dunyas to guard her, and forbade her to go forth to the 7 palaces. Moreover, he made it appear that he was incensed against her, and sent letters to all the kings, giving them to know that she had been stricken with madness by the jinns, and it is now a year since she hath thus been secluded. Then continued the Ifrit Danish, addressing the Ifrita Maymunah, and I, O my lady, go to her every night, and take my fill of feeding my sight on her face, and I kiss her between the eyes. Yet of my love to her I do her no harm, neither mount her, for that her youth is fair, and her grace surpassing. Every one who seeth her jealouseth himself for her. I conjure thee, therefore, O my lady, to go back with me, and look on her beauty and loveliness, and stature, and perfection of proportion. And after, if thou wilt chastise me or enslave me, and win to thy will, for it is thine to bid and to forbid. So saying, the Ifrit Danish bowed his head towards the earth, and drooped his wings downwards. But Maymunah laughed at his words, and spat in his face, and answered, What is this girl of whom thou pratest, but a potsherd wherewith to wipe away making water? By Allah, O accursed, I thought thou hadst some wondrous tale to tell me, or some marvelous news to give me. How would it be if thou wert to sight my beloved? Verily, this night I have seen a young man, whom if thou saw through but in a dream, thou wouldst be palsied with admiration, and spittle would flow from your mouth. Asked the Ifrit, And who and what is this youth? And she answered, Know, O Danish, that there hath befallen the young man the like of what thou tellest me befell the mistress. For his father pressed him again and again to marry, but he refused, till at length his sire waxed wroth at being opposed, and imprisoned him in the tower where I dwell. And I came up tonight, and I saw him. Said Danish, O my lady, show me this youth, that I may see if he be indeed handsomer than my mistress the Princess Budur, or not, for I cannot believe that the like or of her liveth of this in this age. Rejoined Maymunah, Thou liest, O accursed, O most ill-omened of Mavericks, and vilest of Satan. Sure am I that the like of my beloved is not in this world. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. And now, when it was the 180th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the Ifrita Maymunah spake thus to the Ifrit Danish, Sure am I that the like of my beloved is not in this world. Art thou mad to fellow thy beloved with my beloved? He said, Allah upon thee, O my lady, go back with me and look upon my mistress, and after I will return with thee and look upon thy beloved. She answered, It must needs be so. O accursed, for thou art a knavish devil, but I will go with thee, nor shalt thou come with me save upon condition of a wager, which is this. If the lover thou lovest, and of whom thou boastest so bravely, prove handsomer than mine whom I mentioned, and whom I love, and of whom I boast, the bet shall be thine against me. But if my beloved prove the handsomer, the bet shall be mine against thee. Quoth the Danish, the Ifrit, O my lady, I accept this thy wager, and I am satisfied thereat, so come with me to the island. Quoth Maymunah, No, for the abode of my beloved is nearer than the abode of thine. Here it is under us, so come down with me to see my beloved, and after we will go to look upon thy mistress. I hear and obey, said Danish. So they descended to earth, and alighted in the saloon which the tower contained. Then Maymunah stationed Danish beside the bed, and putting out her hand, drew back the silken coverlet from Kamar al-Zaman's face. When it glittered and glistened and shimmered and shone like the rising sun, she gazed at him for a moment, then turning sharply round upon Danish, said, Look, O accursed, and be not the basest of madmen. I am a maid, yet my heart he hath waylaid. So Danish looked at the prince, and long continued gazing steadfastly at him. Then shaking his head, say to Maymunah, "By Allah, O my lady, thou art excusable, but there is yet another thing to be considered, and this is that the estate female differeth from the male. By Allah's might, this thy beloved is the likest of all created things to my mistress in beauty, and loveliness, and grace, and perfection, and it is as though they were both cast alike in the mold of seemlihead." Now when Maymunah heard these words, the light became darkness in her sight, and she dealt him with her wings so fierce a buffet on the head, as well nigh made an end of him. Then quoth she to him, "I conjure thee, by the light of his glorious countenance, go at once, O cursed, and bring hither thy mistress whom thou lovest so fondly and foolishly, and return in haste, that we may lay the twain together, and look on them both as they lie asleep, side by side. So shall it appear to us which be the goodlier and more beautiful of the two. Except thou obey me this very moment, O accursed, I will dart my sparks at thee with my fire, and consume thee. Yea, in pieces I will rent thee, and into the deserts cast thee, that to stay at home and wayfarer an example thou be." Quoth Danish, "O my lady, I will do thy behest, for I know for sure that my mistress is the fairer and the sweeter." So saying, the Ifrit flew away, and Maymunah flew with him to guard him. They were absent a while, and presently returned, bearing the young lady, who was clad in a shift of fine Venetian silk, with a double edging of gold, and purfled with the most exquisite of embroidery, having these couplets worked upon the edges of the sleeves: "3 matters hinder her from visiting us in fear of hateful, slandering envier and his hired spies: the shining light of brow, the trinket's tinkling voice, and scent of essence that tell when she hies. Gine that she hide her brow with edge of sleeve, and leave at home her trinkety, how shall her scent disguise?" And Danish and Maymunah stinted not bearing that young lady till they had carried her into the saloon, and had laid her beside the youth Kamar al-Zaman. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. And so do I cease my tale for today, till it be morrow.